Hi, and welcome to a new episode from Social Skills U, where we discuss different aspects of social skills and conversation strategies. My name's Richard Gray, and I'm happy to have you along, whether you're watching me on the live stream, hi, or whether you're listening to me on the podcast. So, in today's episode, I want to discuss questions. Now, I've been a student of people, an observer of people for many, many, many years now. I've paid attention. And one thing that I've noticed, especially in my previous job, for many years, I used to be a field engineer and I would go into as many as 20 houses per day to do a job on their electricity installations. But on average, I would say I'd probably go into around between 5 and 10 houses per day. And I could be on site for anything between 20 minutes up to 2 hours. So I've made this observation over the years, and I think it's pretty accurate. It's not foolproof, it's not 100%, but it is a pretty good observation. I feel it's come true, or it's resounded true so many times over the years. And that observation is this: when I go into somebody's house, they're not to do a job, they're not particularly benefiting from the job that I'm doing because I was there to do a job that benefited the company I was working for. It was just maintaining or updating some part of the installation, the meter or the pipe work or the cables that maybe had degraded, or the cutout fuse coming into the property. Whatever it was I was there to do, it didn't necessarily benefit the customer, so they had a low level of involvement in it and benefit from it. So many people, just once I was in the property and they knew who I was, and they trusted me to get on with the job, many people would just leave me to get on with it. They'd have very little curiosity in what I was doing. But then there was other people. This was the minority of people. And they, even though they had no interest, no benefit, no payoff to what I was doing, they were curious. They asked me questions. Now, the difference between these two demographics, and this is where I'm trying to avoid generalizing, but the vast majority of those that left me to my own devices were people that lived in poorer circumstances. The ones that asked me the questions and got curious about what I was doing, they were the ones that lived a more middle class or upper class lifestyle. It tended to be an expensive house. They had a more high powered job. I mean, this is surface level observation, of course, but it's a pretty fair observation based on the environments that I was in. So the curious people tended to be the more well-off people, the people that had the highest skilled, more high-powered jobs. And those that had no interest in me, no curiosity in what I was doing, and just left me alone to get on with the job, they were the ones, on the whole, in the vast majority, that lived in lower quality, lower value circumstances. Maybe it was in a council flat, maybe they had kids, maybe they had a low income, and the properties were in poor condition, they were poorly looked after. It's a whole general bunch of observations that come together. The type of foods that you would see there, the state of cleanliness of the property, the quality of the furnishings, the property itself, whether it was on a housing estate or whether it was a in a more exclusive area. All these little observations there, the way the person dressed, the way they talked, all fed into this division of these two types of people, the ones that asked the questions and the ones that didn't. The ones that asked the questions and got curious, they were the people that tended to have the expensive car in the drive, going out to do a highly skilled job. They were the ones with that different mindset. That's, well, I don't want to label the type of mindset, but I think you understand what I'm driving at here. The people that ask questions are those that are tending to be in higher positions in life. Now, questions make, if they're the right type of questions, they can make the other person feel good and feel important in your presence, having a conversation with you. If you're asking them questions and then you're actually listening to the answer. Now, there's a balance to be drawn here between, firing one question after another and getting into interview mode. We don't want that. But there is a nice balance to be had here. So you do want to have the balance between asking questions and giving statements. So you're having a balanced conversation. But again, I'd say perhaps around 60-40, 70-30, where you're asking the question and you're enabling the other person to talk and feel good about themselves in your company because they feel like they're heard. So there's three types of questions in general. The first is the closed question, which you would use to break the ice and open a conversation with and just get a sense of whether the other person is receptive to a conversation. So you'd ask a closed question, an observation in the environment. Oh, it's a nice house you have here. Or if you're into events, nice buffet. Have you tried the food? Excuse me. Or nice hairdo, nice bracelet, an observation about that person in general. You don't have to be wildly interesting. All you're doing is signaling to the other person that you're open for a bit of a conversation, a bit of a chit chat. That's the only purpose of the closed question, is to ask somebody a question that they can answer with a 1 or 2 word reply. And if it feels like they're open for further dialogue, then you can go for an open question. And the open question is one that needs to be answered with more detail. So I would say a question, there is a method that we've covered in an earlier episode called the R method. So the closed question stands for the A. You anchor yourself into the environment. You make a comment around the environment. The R is a reveal. So you reveal something about yourself. And it all depends on the environment you're in, of course. So if you're to a wedding reception, you might reveal that you know the groom and he was out on his bachelor party the previous night. And then the E of the R method, A-R-E, the E is to encourage the other person to also reveal something. So you might ask them how they know the groom or the bride or which side of the party they're on. You encourage them to reveal something about why they're there or something about themselves. That's the R method. So you've gone from a closed question to an open question. And then finally, you have the anecdote type question. This is the lesser known type of question. So you've gone from a short question, a question that requires a short answer, to one that requires maybe a medium-sized response. And now you're going to an anecdote question that requires a bigger response again. So you've gone short, medium, large here. And not many people really know about the anecdote question. But it's a question that's structured in a way that encourages the other person to give an anecdote or a little story in order to answer the question. For example, you ask them, if you're having a conversation about music, maybe you've found out that they play the guitar. Now, you might have started out with a closed question. Do you play any musical instruments? They say yes. Oh, great. What kind of musical instrument do you play? What attracted you to that instrument? And then they give you a more open question about the guitar. And then you could go for the anecdote question. Tell me, how did you get into playing the guitar in the first place? And now they need to give you an anecdote in order to answer that question, a story about how they got into that guitar playing in the first place. So that's the three different types of questions. So, in summary, don't ask too many questions and get into interviewer mode. You also want to be giving the other person information about yourself. These are the statements. So a good balanced conversation is an exchange of questions and statements. So they tell you a story. If you've got something related, you can say, then you can give them the information as well, and they learn about you as well as you learning about them. So that's it for questions. And that was my observation from my many years of working as a field engineer. I don't know if it's valid, but it's a very strong observation that I made over the years, that the people that are more inquisitive, more curious, ask more questions, they are the people that are more engaged with other people. And when you're more engaged with other people and you get into rapport with them and you build connections, and those connections are what you need in life to get higher up on the ladder of life. But that's straying into different territory. All we're focused on today is the art of asking questions and making the other person feel like they matter to you, they're important to you. You're not just asking out of a mechanical need to progress the conversation. If you ask in a way that makes them feel like you're actually interested in the answer, then what you're doing is making a connection, building rapport. They're feeling good because so many people are just in waiting mode, aren't they? You're speaking and you can just feel that they're waiting impatiently for you to finish so that they can start speaking. But imagine if you're speaking and the other person is listening intently to what you're saying. It's a whole different feeling, isn't it? I don't know if you experienced it. I hope you have. It's nice to feel like you're being heard and that the other person is interested in you. That is one of the ingredients of charisma. So if you want to up your game in charisma, ask questions and bloody well listen to the answer and make the other person feel like you're interested in it. Okay, that's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to joining you again on your car ride, in the podcast, or wherever you're watching me on the live stream. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching, and let's do this.